Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Strive's Talking Points, and in this episode I came across a brand new article in USA Today and then went to the GLAAD website to find their supporting documentation. And before I begin, I would always like to say please like, share, comment, and subscribe. The only way to have these conversations is if people respond in the comments and likes and dislikes. That way I know what people are thinking, and every little bit helps. Now, today, the young are regarded as the most tolerant generation. That's why the results of this LGBTQ survey are alarming. USA Today. Young people are growing less tolerant of LGBTQ individuals. A jarring turn for a generation traditionally considered embracing and open. A survey released Monday shows the number of Americans 18 to 34 who are comfortable interacting with LGBTQ people slipped from 53 in 2017 to 45 in 2018, the only age group to show a decline, according to the annual Acceleration Acceptance Report, and that's down from 63% in 2016. So, over the last 2 years, you've seen a big slide of people who are comfortable interacting with these LGBTQs, and in my opinion, I am well over that, even the 34 age group. And overall, I interact with people, the first three letters, lesbian, gays, bisexual people. I have gay friends, men. I've had a couple of here-there lesbian coworkers in the past. Very normal people, because when you meet someone that's a man or a woman and the only real difference between them and your quote-unquote normal person is who they want to sleep with, I don't, as a old man, care. The only type of person I generally care about who they're sleeping with is someone I am either trying to sleep with or someone who is trying to sleep with me. That's it. After that, don't care. Doesn't matter to me. Ever. Don't care. Anyway. Driving the delusion of acceptance are young women whose overall comfort levels plunged from 64% in 2017 to 52% in 2018, says the survey conducted by the Harris Poll on behalf of the LGBTQ advocacy group GLAAD. We count on the narrative that young people are more progressive and tolerant. John Griersma, CEO of the Harris Poll, told USA Today, these numbers are very alarming and signal a looming social crisis in discrimination. Among these findings, and I have the other stuff here at the end, so forgive me while I read through, 36% of young people say they were uncomfortable learning a family member was LGBTQ, compared to 29% in 2017. 34% were uncomfortable learning their doctor was LGBTQ versus 27% a year earlier. 39% were uncomfortable learning their child had a school lesson in LGBTQ history versus 30% in 2017. So across the board, you are seeing pushback in this younger generation where they are becoming less open. And I don't know that they're becoming less open. I believe the proper term where they're tired of it being forced down to them. I have a 10-year-old son, and I don't really know what LGBTQ history he would be being taught. Now, that's me. When I was in school, I can't remember learning about LGBTQ, period. As far as history classes, I mean, you have the famous writers who have their sexuality discussed briefly. You have certain people in, let's say, the medical field who've had these things, or that's about it. Really not something you go over. As with most history, I think of it as more of a blanket. You just kind of talk about what happened when, who was where. Anyway. What you're seeing here is each year the pushback grows. Now, in my section here, this older group here, we are more stagnant because it doesn't affect our lives as much, I would say, a lot of these. And then you see some of the older groups where they are more over entrenched here. But I wonder if it's from just this overexposure you're getting in culture right now. Now, I do have the actual survey here, and then, of course, they're blaming Trump for this, of course, because he's the president. You have to blame him for everything. Now, here we go. The negative shift for the young is surprising, says Sarah Kate Ellis, GLAAD president and CEO. When GLAAD delved into the numbers, the group found the younger generation was coming into contact with more LGBTQ people, particularly individuals who are non-binary and don't identify simply as lesbian or gay. Now, as an adult here, I don't like all these new made-up phrases, made-up words. There's a big push for there to be, and I'm sorry, there's a big push for there to be 600 genders, and it seems to me more akin to a fashion sense where it's trendy to use all these words and all these different things, when mostly it's just confusing to a good portion of people that you have someone's sex being male or female. That is a primary factor in, biology. Then you have their sexuality, which I believe is much less important to the average person than it is to this extreme, the people on the extremes, where most people just don't care. Again, I think a lot of people only are concerned with who they want to be with and who wants to be with them. And then you have these extreme groups where you're pushing out to all these different types of stuff. And I think you're seeing a lot of kids who are coming in contact with all these different types of people, these different extremes, and that could be where the pushback is coming from. Now, this is the Accelerating Acceptance 2019. 50 years after Stonewall Uprising, the LGBT community has great reason to celebrate the many advancements they've have created, greater visibility and legal protections for LGBTQ Americans, but the fight is over. Now, here's where they talk about the Harris poll saw erosion in acceptance through this year's index. Now, I pulled up the index to go through it. The erosion comfort LGBTQ people is stemmed after declines in comfort across several scenarios last year. This year's survey highlights a stabilization of comfort since the previous year among non-LGBTQ US individuals in all 7 divisions. Now, here's the basic question. Base percentage of normal Americans very or somewhat uncomfortable in situation. Having co-workers, having people at your place of worship, seeing a wedding picture. I couldn't care less. My child placed in a class with an LGBT teacher. Couldn't care less. Seeing a same-sex couple holding hands. We've actually had them at our campsite with us. Learning my doctor's LGBT. I don't know that any of these would bother me, but again, I'm in the older group. That would be a little weird, but I would more likely want to know what's going on. Having a LGBT at my members at my place of worship, that might be a little odd, but I don't know how it would make me uncomfortable. But you can see here, you can go to glad.org and look this site up. And basically they've been doing this survey for 5 years. And here's the thing. Last year, the acceptance pendulum abruptly shifted and swung in the opposite direction. More non-LGBTQ adults responded they are very or somewhat uncomfortable around LGBTQ people in these select scenarios. The decline was paired with significant increase in LGBTQ respondents reporting discrimination because of sexual orientation or gender identity. I would like to know, for them to break this apart and just show this gender identity. Right now, there is, most people may not be following it, I don't know. my audience is small enough. In Connecticut, there are female track athletes who are suing based on discrimination. There is a law throughout the U.S., a procedure called Title IX. Essentially, it's ensuring that women get their own sports, so that you don't have only men's track and field or just track and field. You have men's track and field and women's track and field. Well, in, I believe it's Connecticut, you have the state championships ran where two trans women, competed. These have not had hormone therapy. They did not have gender reassignment. They are your standard biological man whose gender identity is now flipped, and they have outcompeted women. If you look on average, you will see that generally all athletic sports. Now, I'm maybe missing something where women outcompete men. But generally, in a speed or strength-based contest, men have the natural evolutionary advantage over women. And I'm wondering if it's not that if you take the LGB, lesbian, gays, bisexual, just people who have the standard, what we consider sexuality, that's different from normal people, straight people, whatever. If you have 98% of the population is straight, then that is normal, and 2% would be the variation that would fall into those three categories. My question, and what I would like to know, is if you move that and you strictly take out the gender identity questions, which is something that I cannot think of being a thing years ago. Is that what's going on? Is that the shift that you now have the trans community, the gender identity community moving into these groups? Because if you're taking women and they're having to now compete and deal with men in women's female areas, even if they are identifying as female, is that where this pushback comes from? That would be my main question to this entire thing. And as you flip through, they actually go over here. At the same time, Trump administration continues to attack LGBT community through discriminatory policies and targeted rhetoric. Now, what they have here is these instances here, and they just have a bunch of them listed. And I'm only going to go through a few of them right here off the top. After the Pulse shooting, as the campaign move in 2016, Donald Trump failed to recognize the third anniversary of the horrific shooting at Orlando's Pulse nightclub, in which 49 LGBTQ people were targeted. Now, it's a third-year anniversary. I don't know if that's something that will have to be talked about in perpetuity outside of the LGBTQ community. I remember it, hearing about it, reading about it, and seeing follow-ups on it in the past, where basically they had I believe it was a religious extremist who went and performed that activity, and they're missing the beheadings that happened here recently in a religious nation. The Trump administration denies all U.S. embassies fly the historic LGBT pride flag on embassy flagpoles in honor of June being national. I don't know that the U.S. embassies should fly anything other than the American flag. So I don't know that that's a hate crime or not. The Trump administration announced they would cut funding for HIV and AIDS research program being conducted by the University of California. Don't know anything about that. Haven't seen that covered anywhere in the news. I'll have to look that one up. Actually, let's just hit that right now. New restriction on fetal research. Can't get rid of that. So that refers to aborted fetuses, which is a hot button issue all across the country. Interesting way they frame that. because if you're pro-life, you would be trying to shut this down, which is a good portion of the U.S. During his visit to UK, President Trump continued to use discredited information about transgender Americans, including categorizing trans people as drug users as a means to justify his ban on transgender. I actually pulled this one up. Here is how the story is covered. Citing Trump's recent surprise tweet recognizing LGBTQ Pride Month, LGBT Pride Month, his first ever, Morgan asked, if you feel that protective of the LGBT community, why do you feel the need to ban transgender people from serving the U.S. military, as the Daily Mail reports? This is they don't cover the answer, they cover this. Trump proceeded to rattle off a list of reasons, none of which were true or accurate. Give them in your article. If you want to cover it, release it, put it out there. It's nothing more than a copy paste. Because they take massive amounts of drugs, they have to. After gender reassignment surgery, which not all trans people choose, and also you're not allowed to take drugs. In the military, you're not allowed to take drugs. You can't take an aspirin, which is false. Active duty troops are discouraged if heading into combat. So if they're active duty and they're going to be in combat, they are discouraged from taking any type of medicine with them. And if you're not doing gender reassignment surgery, I don't know how transgender you would be. You would just be in that group, which is more like what I think of as like a drag queen. I've been to drag shows in the past. They're hilarious. If you've never been, go to one. Highly entertaining, but most of those are just flamboyantly gay men, and I wouldn't think of them as transgender. Seen them in male bathrooms, doesn't bother me. It's just one of those things. But on this, why do you think the younger generation is starting to move away? Again, the only thing I can think of that really is changing is this whole issue of gender identities coming up, and that is the new push. Like I said, there's been a lot of pushback where these trans women are moving into standard female spaces and dominating them, pushing them out, and I wonder if that's not where it's coming from. But anyway, please like, share, comment, subscribe, let me know what you would think. I just came across the story, read through it, really enjoyed it, did my normal background, 20-30 minutes going through stuff, trying to figure out what was what, going through the citations and bringing it to you guys. Please let me know what you think. And last point here, sorry. The FBI released statistics in November showing a 17% increase in overall hate crimes in 2017. I actually have covered this multiple times. The 17% increase comes from I believe a 15% overall increase in reporting agencies, and then police offices and such, state and local officials who are reporting to them. Of the 7,000 crimes, more than 1,200 were based on sexual orientation or gender bias. A lot of these that they are claiming in there, I've tried to do several stories on this in the past, and actually I've gone through and read some of these. A lot of these are in family killings, or where your lover kills you, you kill your lover, vice versa, where it's people, intimate partners, committing the crime. And because it's, because it rolls up into some gender identity, it gets pushed over into a hate crime information. There's a lot of information out there if you guys want to look it up, or if you want me to go through it, I can rehash one of the old videos I did with new information and bring it forward to you guys. But let me know what you think. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.